I mean, honestly, there's so many. Like I've been really blessed. Touring with DJ Premier when I had done that Best of Nas mixtape, and he gave me props on that. That sticks out in my mind forever. Touring with Big Daddy Kane and really getting to see how like everything you can imagine Big Daddy Kane to be like, he's like that. That's also dope. The experience of going to Japan, and I mean, never mind the fact that I had to buy a suitcase just to bring the records back that I got when I was in Japan. But, the way that Japanese fans approach hip hop is like they're studying it. So like when you're rocking in Japan, everybody's just circled around you, just watching like to see what you do. And that experience, again, sticks out in my mind because it's a different level of engagement with people where I think as a DJ, even, I've been talking to my team about the fact that this IG Live energy is really amazing because when you're DJing in real life, you're on a stage, you're separated from the crowd and you can get an energy, but it's like, in mass. Whereas if you're doing this, you're getting this instant feedback from people that fuels you in this really fantastic way. And I think that, when I was in Japan, that was my first taste of that, where it's like people are right there and you're feeding them and they're feeding you. And there's that energy exchange that's really special. I think if I had to tell, the wildest of all the tour stories, it would probably be, when I had done the Lauryn Hill mixtape, I started getting asked to, I started getting booked to go and do these shows. And then they would be like, oh yeah, and by the way, can you bring Lauryn Hill? And I was like, no, like that's not how this works. But eventually I did a show with her where she, basically we did this kind of impromptu thing in Central Park where she was the host of a show, not performing. And I was DJing and I just pitched her, yo, do you want to do like a couple songs? And at first she said no. And then about 30 minutes later, her assistant came and got me. She's like, you know what? Miss Hill's changed her mind. Why don't you go to the dressing room and talk to her? So originally I thought that she was performing, so I didn't bring any Fugees records because you don't ever play the record of the artist before they get on stage. That's like DJ rule number one. So, I went in there and she's like, okay, I'm down to do it. What do you have? And I had no Fugees records. So I was like, well, okay, I got an idea. Why don't we this was the summer of Jam Rock, Damian Marley. Why don't we take Lost Ones and flip it over Jam Rock and over Sister Nancy Bam Bam? And she's like, all right, bet, let's do it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the first verse. I'm going to do the chorus 4 times. And she just spit it out to me real quick. And I was like, she's like, you got it? I was like, I got it. I stepped out of there and I was like, what just happened? And had to get on stage and rock, at Central Park, just like that. And smashed it. So, that was definitely an amazing, amazing moment. Totally impromptu, totally unscripted, that I'll never forget as long as I live. And that led to me becoming her tour DJ off of that. Questlove has paid me high praise for just intrinsically knowing the structure of music. So, that is mathematical, but it's also, I think for me, I'm not counting numbers. It's like a feeling of when something is supposed to move on. Paz the News from De La Soul once paid me the best compliment for the mixtapes, he said, is that they move in perfect time. So that whenever it feels like it's enough of something, it moves on to the next. And I think that's a DJ's instinct of knowing like when to switch records. And that's both knowing when to let a record live and also when to switch. Some DJs go crazy, crazy, crazy. And when they first got Serato, they realized they could switch records every 10 seconds. It was too much. But, that's all math really is like, but that's universal math. That's like the math that you feel and know and understand. So yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. Honestly, that was my happy place. I'm not gonna lie. Like that's my favorite job I ever had, was doing music for the Nets. In the beginning, I think they were thinking about it like other teams, where it was have a DJ, have a little DJ break, during the action. And I don't think it was working quite how they imagined it working. And so I was brought in, I DJ'd a party that the chairman of the Brooklyn Nets was at. And then he booked me to do another party. And by the end of that second party, he was like, walked me in to introduce me to the entertainment director. And she really was just like, can you sit down, watch a game, and it was a preseason game, and tell us, you know, kind of what you think you would do. And I sat and I was just, you know, looking at it and dreaming about it. And I was like, man, you know what would be so amazing is if you did the whole game like a soundtrack. And if you had for every moment in the game, and somebody like myself, I live and breathe basketball. So I know all those moments. I know the feeling of those moments. I know what you want the feeling of those moments to be. So what I pitched to them was, I'm going to make you a full soundtrack of every scenario in the game. There'll be like 20 choices of what you could play and trigger at that time. And they're all going to be flipped. So it's not going to be crisscross jump. It's going to be like, you know, James Brown, get up, get on up. Like nobody ever thought to do that for, you know, a jump ball. Or, you know, there's certain rules of NBA basketball, you know, music, where like when your team is on offense, you can have certain things. When your team is on defense, you know, you can only have drums. So, you know, even those kind of concepts, I would just take and flip. I mean, really, it's just taking a hip hop approach. Like, you want this to feel like Brooklyn? Okay, like, let me show you what that feels like. And that's what I did. And it was just crazy because for some reason, nobody had ever thought to do that before. And so nobody ever had a music supervisor for an NBA team. And, you know, until we did that, you know, a lot of people were doing creative things. And I've met some of these other DJs and become friends with them. You know, D Sharp out in Golden State, you know, he's got rings. Like, he's a part of that team because of what he contributes, you know, to the energy in the building. My thing is got to feel like Brooklyn. You got to have Biggie and Jay sprinkled in there. You know, all those little things that you expect, you got to flip them on their head, and you're going to make something really special. And I watched it unfold. So for the first 2 years, you know, my contract with them, I laced, you know, Barclays Center for those games. And, you know, after that, I think it changed because they had front loaded to try to make the playoffs those first 2 years. So the team kind of broke apart and they rethought a lot of stuff. I think, honestly, they were just like $70 million over their salary cap. And so they just had to change the whole program. But for those first 2 years, I think I was able to build something really special. And I still keep in touch with the DJs over there now, is DJ MIL, you know, and he's really, I think, trying to like be in that same spirit of what it should feel like over there. It's Brooklyn, you know what I mean? So it's got to feel like that.